Welcome to the Unstuck Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Miner. This weekly no-fluff mindset show arms you with the practical tools you need to get unstuck so you can get exactly what you want out of life. Remember, when you change your mind, your life will follow. Let's get into today's episode. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Unstuck Podcast. Thank you all so much for joining me today. We've got to talk about stress, and we're going to take a whole episode to do that today. Man, back when I talked about nutrition all the time, I talked about stress all the time because as a holistic health practitioner, that is by far the most common complaint that women have. They don't know they're complaining about stress and an overactive cortisol response, an overactive fight or flight response, and now how that is contributing to how they feel, but then also the state of their hormones and their menstrual cycles, just all of it. So much of it is based in stress. And so I used to talk about it all the time. I still do love the topic of stress, but it's changed a little bit for me because in that time when I was working with hundreds of women, testing their hormones, testing their cortisol levels, finding out how much stress had impacted their health, what I saw in not only the women I was working with, but then also the just general health population, those people in the wellness space who were giving advice on healing stress response and dealing with stressful scenarios and all of that stuff. What I found was that there was a key piece that was really missing in that community and what was being taught that we just weren't doing. It's like we were willing to take the supplements, we were willing to change the diet, we were willing to even add in some self-care and things like that to change our stress response and to then fix our hormones. But we were still missing something so big. And now here we are talking more about mental and emotional and spiritual health on the Unstuck Podcast, which means I can talk to you about how that is either keeping you in a stress response or can help heal your stress response and in turn keep you stuck or get you unstuck. So in this realm, the topic of stress is twofold. First of all, your current mental and emotional health and how you are approaching life from that place, from what your beliefs are, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, everything we talk about here, how you're approaching life based on that can cause stress, which will, of course, keep you stuck. But then also, being in a state of stress, just in general, whatever things are causing you stress in your life, will keep you out of alignment. When you are in that fight or flight mode, you cannot be in this place of flow, of alignment, of allowing, of accepting. So again, that is going to keep us stuck. So really, there's two parts here to where we can use our mindset practice, what we have going on now because of the work we're doing here, to get us out of that stress cascade. Because as you can see, right now, you or someone you know might be in this vicious cycle, one where we have these low vibe, negative beliefs and thoughts and emotions, and it's keeping us in a state of stress, which is keeping us stuck. But then that state of stress in our physical body means that we cannot get into alignment. We cannot start the process of connecting with the universe or our higher power, of tapping into our intuition, of redesigning our stories. So we just stay in this vicious cycle. So, of course, the option here is to get your stress levels under control, get your beliefs, thoughts, and emotions to clear up, to clean out, your headspace, and start being more positive, start being more high vibe, start practicing more, spending more time in a parasympathetic state or that rest and digest kind of flow state. That's what we'll call it here, since we're talking more mental and emotional health versus like physical health, rest and digest, which is also important, but we'll call it the flow state that happens when we're not in that fight or flight mode. We can get into that. So that's it, right? Obviously, much easier said than done. I think we can all agree that realizing we are stressed and getting that stress under control and making that a practice is pretty hard to do. We live in the world we live in right now. There are a lot of different stressors in our lives. There's stuff that's going on all day, every day in our existence that's keeping us in this state of cortisol output, of constant stress response. But here's the really cool thing about that and about the work that we're doing here is that when you are in this place of alignment and flow and peace and ease and just, being aware of your world and of your thoughts and emotions and beliefs, everything we talk about here, when you are fully embracing that, then your outside world can be as chaotic and hectic and stressful and all the things going on, but you are not affected by it. You basically have built this barrier to your inner world where your outer world does not affect your inner sense of calm and peace. So you have this inner being that is basically armored up, cannot be affected by all of the stressors of our outside world, which, hey, guess what? That also means we are able to handle our stressors a whole lot better, because part of the reason why things get so stressful is because our inner world becomes chaotic too, and then we really don't know how to handle things and things really get out of control. Okay. So that is the great thing that we are doing here, that if you are someone who has fully embraced this unstuck practice and you're doing this mindset work, and I'm just going to keep coming back to that today because that's really what it's about, is just, this is your reminder. Let this episode be your reminder of how important this work that we are doing together here is, and how important it is to get started if you haven't already. If you're just listening to the episodes and not taking action yet, let this be the day you start taking some action. All right. Now, I do want to preface this again by saying that this isn't just about physical health. I think a lot of us, when we think about stress, we think about how it impacts us physically, which is true. And we're going to get into that. But remember, when I say stuck, it could also be that you're financially stuck. It could be that you're stuck in a career or a job you don't want or don't like or isn't filling you up. You could be stuck in a relationship that's not the right one for you, or you haven't put in the effort to make it better. Neither one of you are doing the right things, whatever. You could be stuck being single when you don't want to be single. There are so many different facets of life that this applies to. So when I say stuck, which I do all the time, but definitely will again today, when I kind of bring up that topic of what is keeping you stuck or out of alignment, whatever you want to call it, it applies to all these areas of life. And yes, physical health is a very big one. And that's one reason why a lot of you are here listening to the Unstuck podcast, but that's not it. And even if you do feel physically stuck in some way, you have some sort of environment in your body that you don't think is healthy or you want to change, there also are probably some other areas of your life that you are stuck. And so I do want to keep that door open and let you know that it applies to all of it. All right. So now the big question, is stress keeping you stuck? Well, my short answer, yeah, probably is. If you're not doing this work that we talk about, like I just said, if you're not taking this seriously and making this a lifestyle for yourself, then you can assume that you are probably still in some sort of stress response, and that is keeping you stuck, whether it's with your health, your weight, your job, your money, your relationship, any of it, any and all of it. And here's why. like I mentioned, your negative emotions, thoughts, beliefs, all of those things that go on in that mind of yours are causing your body to trigger a stress response. And that stress response keeps you from attaining this level of peace and clarity and ease and purpose and passion and all of the things that we really want to try to find and what we really want to make a priority for ourselves in our time here on this planet. And of course, this is the norm. This is normal. This is our go-to state, whether it be in autopilot mode with our thinking or in constant chatter mode with our thinking or in negative Nancy mode or at the very least, just not in this state of flow. This is how most of us go. This is where we end up without doing this work. And also, it may not even be something that you know that you're doing. It may be a case where your limiting beliefs and your stories that you've been telling yourself, they've been dictating your life up until now. You might not even be aware of them. So you may not even know that what is going on in your mind has been causing you to be in a constant fight or flight mode. And that is why taking the time to really dig through and really find that out, which I've already given you so many reasons as to why that's important. Here's just another one, because it could be keeping you stuck in a stress response. And that stress response may be impacting you physically with your physical body, your physical health, and all the symptoms that come from a chronic stress response, which will go over some of them. But it could also be keeping you stuck in other areas of your life. So again, more, cheerleading activity for me to you to get you to start in on this journey if you haven't already. Get started on it and make it a habit. So I think most of you know at least a little bit about the role that stress plays on our health and our physical body, but I do want to just go over the process just a little bit, and we'll keep it super high level for today, but here we go. So we know that we have a built-in stress response system in our bodies that basically keeps it so that our bodies aren't physically impacted by stressful scenarios. So we have this whole system in place to keep us healthy when stress does happen. Like, for instance, a life-threatening situation where, a car is coming at you in full speed as you're crossing the street and you have to run out of the way, or you get stuck in a tornado or earthquake or something like that and you have to find coverage. Life-threatening situations. This is how we activate our fight or flight response through our sympathetic nervous system. It turns on our adrenal glands. Our adrenal glands then release adrenaline, followed by cortisol. These are both hormones that are responsible for kind of keeping us safe, protecting us during a stressful scenario. The problem comes in with this whole system that we have in place to handle stress because we don't ever get out of it. In today's world, as the people we are, the things we have going on in our lives, the world we live in, and how that has impacted our thoughts, emotions, beliefs, all that good stuff, we have been stuck, and we are stuck with this fight or flight response turned on, when in reality, we are built as humans for it to go on occasionally, like when there's an earthquake or there's a car coming at us full speed and we need to ditch out of the way. These things that don't happen that often. But now we have made it so that our stress response is always turned on. It never has a chance to rest. And this is when we get into trouble, because at that point, this constant output of adrenaline and cortisol starts having serious complications on our health and some of the things that have been linked to chronic stress. And these are all in studies. You can go find them if you want. High blood pressure, metabolic disorders, migraines, anxiety and depression, weight gain or inability to lose weight, insomnia or sleep issues, hormonal imbalances, and any of the symptoms that come from having a hormonal imbalance, weakened immune system, high inflammatory levels, like that, the list just goes on. Those are just a few. So yeah, huge impact on our physical health. But like I said, another thing happens too when we are chronically stuck in a state of stress, and that is it keeps your energy stuck. And we've talked about how physical symptoms can come from having stuck energy. And we're going to talk about that with an actual professional acupuncturist coming up in a few weeks. So be on the lookout for that. But we really have to look at how our physical symptoms could also be coming from having this stuck energy. This chronic stress response also will keep your vibration low. It will keep your resistance high, which we talked about in the episode on being in alignment, that the opposite of alignment is resistance. So that is triggered. Your flow and ease state is non-existent, and we talked about that already. So these are all things that we need to get unstuck and have all the good, have everything we want coming our way, which is possible and probable and gonna happen if you can just, again, get out of your own way, which includes getting out of this chronic stress response. So that's the other side of this stress coin is, yes, this chronic stress creates physical symptoms and physical stuckness, and your beliefs and your thoughts and your emotions cause this response and cause mental and emotional stress, but then it all feeds into the cycle. So when you're stressed out, you can't flow. And when you can't be in flow, you can't get unstuck. And the cycle moves on. So as you can see, digging yourself out of that chronically stressful environment is critical to not only the health of your body, but also your mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And this may be something where if you feel like you're trying to do this work and you're just not getting anywhere, and you're not getting into alignment, you're not feeling the flow, and you can't seem to get out of your autopilot mode or your constant chatter, then we need to look at your stress levels a little bit deeper. Of course, too, when we think about stress, and this was really something that I saw quite a bit in the health and wellness community, it's so easy for us to think of like the common stress type scenarios, which is like a boss you don't like, or trouble in your relationship, or your kids having to be 5 places at once, the things that are like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how I'm getting through this life. And so, of course, a lot of that is very obvious. And a lot of that is what we come back to when you find out that you are stuck in a chronic state of stress. And so we try to mitigate that kind of stuff and put into place some ways that we can, organize our time better and feel like we do have a little bit more time. We have things under control, and that's going to take care of our stress. And that is not the case. Remember, a huge consideration that no one's considering until now is your beliefs, thoughts, and emotions. What is going on in your headspace? Because it is a lot harder to pinpoint, but super necessary and will be the determiner of how things go for you from here on out. Here's your big takeaway. Your negative emotions are causing your body to stress out. Your brain doesn't understand that negative thoughts aren't the same as real danger. When you think negative thoughts, or when you get into your limiting beliefs and you have thoughts and emotions based on those, it's the same to your body and to your stress response as that car coming at you full speed ahead when you're on the crosswalk. It is the same thing. You are going to experience the same symptoms, the same effects as if that were really going on. And why it's so important, I feel like not enough people are talking about how this psychological stress, which we can think of as these negative vibes we have carrying around in our headspace, are the main contributor to what you are experiencing physically as far as your health issues and your symptoms. There are studies that show that this kind of stress, this psychological stress, contributes to both short and long-term health issues. We've got to start taking it seriously. When you are someone that is dealing with, random symptoms or even known symptoms of adrenal fatigue or hormone imbalances, yeah, it's great to get more sleep and to take the supplements and whatever you want to do, but you've got to look at this stuff too. That's not it. This is the hard stuff. Yes, I know, but this is also the good stuff. So I really want you to take this stuff seriously and see if you can get through all the muck in your head. And that will be the thing that finally gets your stress response system to chill the heck out for a little bit. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, really, the way to get out of this, you already know. If you've listened to several episodes of the Unstuck podcast, and definitely if you've listened to the 29 before this or 30 before this, then you already know how to do this. And if you're doing the work that you're learning here, if you're making that a part of your life and you're practicing it, you are already doing it. You are taking your stress levels way down because you're taking control of your emotional and mental stressors. So this is all just review. Everything I'm going to tell you right now, it's just review. You already know what to do. And if you just need the kick in the pants to do it, I hope that this is it. Okay. But these are just review. The first one and the big one, and really the one we want to just hone in on right here, right now. This is the unstuck journey right here. Finding the fun and the joy of the now, of right now, because you cannot be in a place of psychological stress while you are experiencing fun and happiness and joy and contentment. You can't do it both ways. So you can't be that stressed out mentally and emotionally if you are experiencing joy and if you are finding the fun. Okay? So we can't function in both places at the same time, which means focus your attention and get into the function of fun and joy. And like I said, we've talked about this multiple times. You can go to the episode Be Happy Now, episode 8, and get back into that. But we know to do that. And now it's just about making it a priority. Like who else is going to tell you to make it a priority to just go have some fun, right? Take it from me. Go do it and see what changes for you. Again, also review, releasing your old patterns to create new stories. You've got to dig through your thoughts, find those limiting beliefs, find those stories that are keeping you stuck in this stress response and just stuck in overall life. And we can start unraveling them. We can start uncovering. We can choose a different story. And again, something we go over so much in this unstuck journey. And just a reminder, it matters with your stress response too. You have the choice as to whether situations in your life are stressful. Remember that. You have the choice as to whether situations in your life are stressful, and it all comes down to the thoughts that you carry with that situation. It can be easy breezy, or it can be stressful and hard. Your choice. So start choosing differently, start releasing those old patterns that are making it hard and creating the new stories. And again, you can go back to the episode about limiting beliefs for more help with that. Number 3, you knew this was going to come up, meditation and breathing. Meditation. There is no better tool to relieve your stress and get you into parasympathetic mode because you're not thinking negatively. You're not thinking at all. in that space, which means you're not thinking negatively, which means your body can take a big, deep breath of relief and get out of that fight or flight mode. If it may be 5 seconds, and that's fine, because the more you do it, the longer it will be. And this new tune you will set up for your body to start getting into that space more often. Next, self-care and self-preservation. In my world, self-preservation and self-care are two different things. And I have a whole episode on tap to chat with you about that in the future. But this includes things like movement that you enjoy and that feels good for your body, sleeping enough and getting good, high quality, deep sleep, a nourishing, intuitive approach to food that feels good for you, finding time for peace and quiet, for you to have your me time, to be alone and do what you want to do. Again, we're finding the fun. And sometimes, a lot of times probably, finding the fun might be by yourself and doing things that you want to do, and you've got to make that a priority. Also, treating yourself, which I think a lot of people go towards when they think of self-care, treating yourself to some pampering or whatever. And that, yes, can absolutely be involved in your self-care practice. It's just not all of it. So when it feels right to you and that feels like something would really fill you up, and of course, bring in some fun and joy, then that is something to do too. And then lastly, practicing self-love, which we had a whole episode about, and debunking the myths around self-love. And it's one of my favorite episodes still. I'll make sure to include it in the show notes if you haven't listened to it already. Please go back and listen to that. It's so important and the key to success for releasing your stress response. So as you can see, the stuff that I want you to focus on is really stuff you're probably already focusing on, and you're already making an impact into your life and making it a habit. So you're well on your way, and we just want to continue that. And so this is really not to give you any new tools. I think we have plenty of tools out there that we're doing right now, and you may even be in tool overwhelm at this point, but instead just to remind you of how important this work is. And if you need the kick in the butt to get started, maybe this is it. Maybe this is your kick in the butt because you have been diagnosed with adrenal fatigue, or you know that your hormones are out of balance and it's because of your stress response. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can't just take the supplements. You can't just try to sleep one more hour and take a bubble bath and think your hormones are going to reverse and get back to normal. You've got to look at your mental, emotional, and spiritual health and the role that that plays in the stress of your physical body. And that's what we're doing here today. So I hope that worked for you. I hope you have the kick in the pants you need if you needed it. If not, don't worry. Keep listening to the Unstuck podcast and eventually I'll get you. Remember, the goal here is, and when I say here, I mean overall through our Unstuck journey together, the goal here is to provide, like I said, that suit of armor for your inner being, your inner world, to stay calm, peaceful, in alignment, in allowance, flowing, all the yummy words we use around here that just sounds so fabulous, no matter what your outer environment is doing. So we, of course, have to talk about stress, have to think about stress, have to handle stress. And we really want to get to that place where we do have the ability, because we're always going to have stress in our lives. We're always going to be presented with stressful scenarios to overcome. And we want to get to that point where we can handle the stressful scenario from this place of calm and ease and peace and flow, because our inner being isn't affected by that outer environment. And that is when we are no longer stuck, and we never will be stuck again. We can get and stay unstuck because we've done that work. We've gone through this whole process, and we continue to make our mindset work a practice, a forever thing. We never let it go. And your ability to handle stress, to combat stress, to get through stress, and to stay centered in who you are will never go away. And that is our ultimate goal here. That is what I wish for you, because man, does that feel good when you are there. And not only that, yes, you have stressful scenarios that come up in your life, but you also have so much good coming into your life that no amount of stress could ever take away from you or to get you out of that place. And that is the goal. That's why we're talking about this here today. That's why I wanted to take a whole episode to really get you to think really deeply about your stress levels and how your headspace is connected to the stress that you are currently under, to see if we can really start breaking that up and getting to the root cause and really start doing something about that and get to this newfound place of alignment. All right, your homework for today. You created a fun list not too long ago, and it should be a pretty long list of things that you think are fun, things that bring you joy, things that take your mind off of what's stressful. You have that list. And now it is your chance to, every single day this week, you are going to find something on that list that you can do. Now, your list should include, and if you haven't done this yet, first do this. Your list should include things that are major, like that take a whole weekend, you have to get up and travel to do it, and just little things that you can do just that take 30 seconds or 5 minutes that make you feel really good. So I want you to, if you haven't already, create that list, and it should be like a lot of things, like 50 to 100 things. And if you've already created your list, now is your chance to incorporate them regularly. Now we are getting in the habit of finding the fun. Okay, so head to your list every single day. And even if you need to plan, like, okay, on Thursday, I'm going to do this thing on my list. Like, I'm going to go to that dance class. You can plan it. That's okay. Plan ahead for your fun. I'm cool with that. But that is your goal for this week. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you know someone that is working on their stress levels, be sure to send this episode to them so they can get on board and learn what they really need to work on in their lives to become stress-free. And until next time, take care.